violence affects 1 in 3 women, 1 in 4 men, and millions of Americans. Welcome to Center Yourself. My name is Ryan, and today I'm going to share with you my story of surviving domestic violence and the steps that I took to get myself from that violent, toxic situation to the situation I'm in now, which is the road and path to healing. Disclaimer: I am not a medical professional, and I am not trying to give you specific medical advice, simply stating what path I took, the coping skills I took, and if you are in a situation where domestic violence or abuse is being exhibited, I recommend that you get medical help, medical professional help, someone that you can talk to, someone that can assist you in getting out of that situation. First thing I'd like to discuss is attachment style. This is something that I didn't realize until I was in an abusive relationship, when I was trying to find answers to figure out what was going on, what I was doing wrong, and why the dynamic of the relationship was changing, why the relationship was the way it was, basically. And there are a couple different kinds of attachment styles. There's the anxious attachment style, there is the avoidant attachment style, there is the secure attachment style, and then there is the disorganized attachment style, which has a couple names. The one I'm most commonly hearing of for it is fearful avoidant. I fall in the fearful avoidant category. Fearful avoidant exhibits both anxious and avoidant tendencies in their styles, depending on what's going on and depending on their partner's style of attachment. Obviously, everybody wants to be secure. That's the kind of goal. And a lot of human beings that had fairly reasonable childhoods, the way they are supposed to be, where they had caretakers that took care of them the way they were supposed to, taught them correct coping skills and all that, that's usually their style. However, for the rest of us, there's a variety of things that can happen that can create any of those other types of attachment styles. I'm not going to go into detail much about the attachment styles, other than maybe saying, if you feel yourself have ever been in a push and pull dynamic within a relationship, that you maybe delve a little deeper into those and see, with the help of a counselor or a therapist or a psychotherapist, what that might mean for you in your relationships and how you can find better skills to get yourself to the secure attachment style, where the best healthy relationships are. I also hear that you only really need one secure attachment style in a relationship to potentially help the other person. Again, I'm not a medical professional, so I don't know if that's accurate or not. But I have to say, having my partner be fairly secure, or mostly secure, in his style of attachment has helped me understand myself better and helped me heal the rifts inside of me. So something to think about. Childhood trauma. So those attachment styles can come about for a number of different reasons. Often they're early childhood. So it's usually in your formative years, when you're still a fairly young child. Either one or both of your parents is inconsistent or absent. That usually is what creates those attachment styles. And for me, I kind of had both. My dad abandoned us early on, so me and my brother were left in Vermont, and my dad moved back to Arizona, to the Reeves side, where I unfortunately know very little about, because he was so absent. Thankfully, my grandmother down there did talk to us quite often, but still there was, thousands of miles of distance between us, so I really don't know, and I didn't get the chance to know them the way I wish I would have. As for my mother, my mom was a single parent of 4, 2 boys with my dad and 2 girls with the girl's dad. She was an amazing mom. She did everything she could. She went above and beyond. She worked full-time, went to school full-time, trying to better herself to give us an idea of what we could do, that we could accomplish anything, basically. Unfortunately, though, with working full-time and going to school full-time, it created an inconsistency in both what we saw in terms of adults with healthy coping skills and a disorganization, I should say, in the way she was parenting. Plus, there was a few partners that she had that were also abusive, unbeknownst to her, unfortunately, at the time, that influenced some of those wounds in me, and probably my siblings as well. That created these attachment styles which aren't healthy, and need some revisiting and some fine-tuning and some coping skills to get yourself into a better place, to find security, and true connection. That's a big part of it. So right after high school, I got into a relationship with this amazing man, who I spent 9 years with. Unfortunately, we diverged in what we wanted and our ideas of what our life should be. So we did not make it, unfortunately. But we did have many adventures, including moving to North Carolina, which was my first time away from Vermont. I met a bunch of really amazing friends like Jen and Kiki and Crystal. Just an amazing adventure, honestly. But on our return, we found that what we wanted from life was very different. His mom unfortunately passed away, and it created this rift between us that unfortunately was unable to be healed. So we broke up. It took me 3 years to find myself back into a normal state where I felt like I could be in a relationship again, which may seem like a long time to a lot of you, but after 9 years of somebody, it was very, very hard for me to even want somebody else near me. This is some of the first time that I realized that I had some pretty significant wounds that had been unhealed. And at the time, I really didn't recognize that they needed to be healed. I thought I had healed them by the end of this 3 years. All throughout most of my life, I have had this productivity as self-worth issue. So for most of my life, I've had 2 jobs at least. This probably started in early childhood when I became, the eldest sibling and had to take care of many of the things of the house while my mom was going to school and working full-time. So cooking, cleaning, making sure homework gets done, all of that. I was very involved with my duties at the house, unable to really experience much of the childhood that I probably should have if I didn't have a situation like this. But basically, I've found I use productivity and what I'm able to produce, or how productive I am, to be a metric for how well I'm doing in life and my self-worth, which is unfortunate. But it is what it was. Things are changing, and there's lots of ways in order to do that. After 3 years of basically healing from my 9-year relationship, I met this man. I'm not going to give names just because it's irrelevant. Unfortunately, this person was a narcissist. I should say, I believe he is a narcissist. I'm not a doctor, so I cannot say that for certain. But the characteristics and things that went on lead me to believe that he is a narcissist. The beginning was amazing. The start was epic. It felt like, wow, this is the one. Do you know what I mean? Like, I decided to go all in right off. I mean, it wasn't right off, but it was pretty dang close. Way too early in the relationship to know something like that. I even had thoughts of marrying him. Thank God that did not happen. Not too far in, though, he began to pull away, and I found out that he had been cheating on me with multiple people. Unfortunately, I found this out before he realized I knew it, and I confronted him, which created an explosive reaction. It technically broke us up for a little bit, but with any of these kind of type situations, there's a lot of push and pull, and I got pulled back into the drama. I got pulled back into this breadcrumbing or love bombing that this person did in order to keep me on the line and to keep me wanting and to keep me from basically leaving. He made me feel like, okay, maybe he's worth it. Maybe, he's sorry. Maybe my love can heal him. It's a horrible thought, but it's one of those things, or maybe I deserved to be cheated on. It wasn't the first time. That first love did as well. So there's a lot of weird feelings and self-worth issues there that I hadn't realized. Not long after that, began gaslighting, more breadcrumbing, and love bombing, and the abuse began. I don't know why I stayed as long as I did. I stayed 5 years with this man. Maybe I felt like I deserved it, or maybe I felt like a combination of I deserved it, and maybe if I just love him enough, that things would work. I don't know. I just know that it was very unhealthy. He was both mentally abusive by verbally berating me and belittling me. Never, of course, in public. This was always in private. He had a very specific persona that he had to keep for the people in public. So almost nobody really knew what was going on. I did have a friend of his that I talked to that kind of saw some of these sides of him, but unfortunately I never listened to those people when they told me that I should get out while I could. And on top of the mental violence became physical violence. This man was extremely violent, and he would bruise me frequently. He would wrestle me and spit on me, slap me, punch me, slam my head into the wall until my head split open. I had a gash on my forehead here. I was lying to people, telling people I fell down stairs. And unfortunately, it wasn't like one-time things. It was quite often. There was times where police were involved, and I got taken out and left, only to go back. And I just don't understand how I could keep going back. All my life growing up, when I saw people that were in these situations, I would be like, why do these people stay? I don't understand. Just leave. And then you live it, and it's a little bit different. Another part of this situation was slowly pulling me away from my support system. So little by little, the friends that I had in my corner or the people that I were living with slowly moved away. And they pulled themselves out of the situation where they could see me getting abused like this, and not able to help me because I couldn't help myself, or I wouldn't help myself. Which is extremely shameful all in itself. But things they don't tell you about is how isolating being in this kind of situation is, and how it affects you emotionally, mentally, and physically. Every area of my life was affected. My ability to work, my ability to go to work, how productive I was at work, my ability to talk to people and be able to have regular conversations. I didn't find joy in anything I did anymore. I was just constantly in a state of up and down, fight and flight with him, not sure what is going on and what I did wrong. And quite often, his rage had nothing to do about me. I was just there for it to be let out on. He would rage about work, and somehow it was my fault. Everything was my fault. Even though I did everything that he wanted. I cleaned the house. I got everything situated. I did everything he wanted. But unfortunately, everything isn't enough for these people. It wasn't long until he began looking for a new source, a new person to feed his ego and see him the way he wanted to be seen, not the way that I was beginning to see him, which was I was seeing him as an abuser, because he was abusive. He didn't like me to view him that way. He didn't like being perceived that way, and so now he needed a new person to give him the attention and the things that he wanted, but from a different perspective, one that didn't perceive him the way he was. And thankfully for me, as soon as he found a new source, and I realized that he had fallen in love with him, it was enough for me to break away. I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle being a second choice. I couldn't handle being unloved while he's loving somebody else, and not even like shyly, like openly loving somebody else. I could see the changes in him. I could see how he was gravitating towards that way, and I decided that it was enough for me. I couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it. I was so tired and so stressed out. I didn't sleep anymore. I was battling some of the worst depression episodes I've ever had in my life. I had started having, well, I guess it was the beginning, I started having CPTSD, where I was just having reactions that were crazy. Like, they were unproportional. Loud noises made me fucking jump out of my skin. Like, they still do, actually. I still have quite a hard time with loud noises. Anything that seems sort of violent immediately makes my heart race. Certain smells will make me go right back to it. Cologne that he wore. If I smell it in public, instant flashback. And the hardest part of the leaving after I learned he had fallen in love with somebody is we had 2 cats with each other. So I brought a cat into it, and he had a cat. Funny enough, his cat fell in love with me and imprinted on me, and my cat, of course, imprinted on him. He was an excellent cat dad. I will give him that. He took very good care of those babies, and I loved them so much. It was so hard for me to leave them. There was no way I would have been able to get them out of that situation. One of them was Savannah, which is a very, very expensive cat. And I knew that if I even tried to take them, that he would hunt me down and do horrible things, whether it's legal, as he had a legal mind. He took schooling in legal aid, and I just couldn't deal with the repercussions of trying to take them and the constant reminder of what was there and what had been lost there. It took me the longest time because of those cats to leave. I stayed many weeks longer than I should have, trying to get my stuff situated and trying to get myself out of the situation after finding a new place. All the while, the abuse raged on. Upon my fully getting myself out of the situation and getting myself unpacked into my new place away from my abuser, I decided to take a trip to South Carolina to visit my mom. Because with a lot of people that have codependency, I needed help regulating my emotions. And it's nothing like a mom, you know? So I went down for a week or so, trying to give myself some time to heal. Of course, my job did not really take kindly to that, and they said they were understanding and allowed me my week. They basically told me that if I didn't come back, that I was going to lose my job. So I ended up coming back, even though I definitely needed more time to just kind of rethink my life and to try to get myself in focus, and find a therapist, which is what my primary focus was. Trying to get myself the professional medical help that I needed to get myself past this crippling point, this crippling chapter in my life. And now to some coping skills, things that will potentially help you, that have helped me. Probably the easiest to think of would be meditation and breathing. So when you're having flashbacks, when you're having panic attacks, when you're having moments where you're just overwhelmed and the world is too much, just taking a few moments to sit with yourself and breathe. living in the now, being present. I don't know how valuable that one skill right there is. It kind of helps all of the other coping skills as you work through the different problems, traumas, and issues, and as you deal with your panic attacks or whatever you might be dealing with in these situations after having gone through a similar experience to me. Another one that I've actually found probably one of the most helpful for me thus far is using the breathing technique with a safe place. So I was told or instructed to find a place in my childhood or in my early adult life, or even not that long ago, where I felt really safe and comfortable and warm. Specifically safe though, and envision myself in that while I'm having those moments. So for me, I have this place where when I was younger, we'd go camping as a family, and it just felt amazing at that time in my life. I had obviously had a lot of bad shit that occurred in my earlier childhood. This time was carefree feeling, and my siblings were there and my mom was there, and it was summertime and there was good food and we had friends sometimes that were there. So for me, this place felt safe. This felt nice. And I used that place in my head, and I use it regularly, even still today, to bring myself out of moments where I feel unsafe. If I'm feeling unsafe, I close my eyes and I think of myself there on the beach next to the lake, with the sun beating on my face. The trees, I can hear the wind blowing through them, and I can hear the loons on the lake. And that just feels safe to me. So I go back to that place when I need to feel safe, to help my body regulate, and to take myself out of the fight or flight mode. And it doesn't work every single time, but it works pretty regularly. I still have medications that I can use if I cannot get myself out of that situation. Something that'll stop me from having panic attacks, which I have usually and mostly, just to know that I have it there, which is very helpful just having it there. That's another thing. If you talk with your psychiatrist, you might find that there could be something to help you. For me, I have a lot of disorders, so between depression and CPTSD, and anxiety and OCD, and all of the above there, I have a lot of things that I have to deal with, and I have some medicines that aid me in that. It's not something I would recommend, and I really would like to be eventually free of being on any kind of medicine, because I want to get myself back to the point where I can regulate myself. But that's a conversation between you and your psychiatrist, one that I am working on for myself. But I have a mood stabilizer, and I have ADHD medicine, and I have something to help me sleep, because my insomnia is so intense, between nightmares and just a general inability to sleep correctly. Another coping skill would be to having a self-care routine. So taking care of yourself can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. For me, it's having a morning ritual and having an evening ritual. Oftentimes journaling is a part of it. In the evening, I also like to set up what I want to focus on in the morning, so give myself an idea of like, oh, these are the tasks that I'd like to accomplish. These are the most vital tasks specifically. And I write them down so that I know them, so I'm not worried about them, and then it gives me a little bit of ability to let go of that so I can fall asleep, as insomnia, again, is pretty significant with me, and I can sometimes stay up all night long just thinking about all the things like, oh, the dishes aren't done, or oh, the house isn't cleaned, all those weird little OCD things. Another part of OCD is I bite my fingers. It's called dermatophagia. This has been going on for a long time, since I was a kid, basically. But it's a part of OCD and anxiety. As things get stressful for me, I not even thinking about it, I bite on my fingers. Like when I was a kid, it started on the inside of my cheek, and I got to chew gum in school, and then it transferred from my cheeks to my cuticles and my nails, and then from my nails to my knuckles. And now my knuckles are pretty significantly damaged. They have platelets, scar tissue basically all the way around them. Between my job, which is working with chemicals and water, and the wintry conditions in Vermont, they're constantly dry and cracking, and they can split all the way across, which is excruciatingly painful. Plus, it's unsightly, and people ask me questions about it all the time, which is very uncomfortable, and again, kind of shaming. It's something that I can't quite control, but one thing that I found very useful is Band-Aids. For me, I recognize there was a Band-Aid before I put it in my mouth, or as I'm putting it in my mouth, and that reminds me to not do it. One of those simple things. Shout out to Band-Aid. Amazing. I'm just gonna say, I have not been biting on my knuckles for almost a month now. 3.5 weeks since I've started this specific routine. I've been trying to strategize different ways for me to help myself through each of these issues that I'm experiencing, or find coping skills that work. Other things that help is focusing on your goals, or learning what things you might want to be incorporated in, things that you enjoy, and trying to find your passion back in them. It was very difficult for me to find passions again after, especially with my bouts of severe depression. I got to the point where everything I loved to do just killed me inside. Like I just couldn't do it. So what kinds of things do you enjoy doing? What kinds of things do you like? What are your goals? And how can you get yourself from that point you are now to meeting some of those specific goals? Those things help me. Breaking it down into little pieces, now that I have ADHD medicine and I can focus and I can be like dot ABCD, has really helped me feel like I am meeting some of my expectations and filling my own cup, basically. That's a big one we talk about in therapy, is filling your cup before you fill anybody else's. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And if your cup isn't already overflowing, there's no point of trying to fill somebody else's. You have to have a full cup first. Very, very important. And again, probably another huge one here is a support network. You have to have a supportive group of people around you that understand at least the basics of what's going on with you, so they can, be empathetic to whatever's going on, so they understand when you're having a panic attack, or at least they have an understanding of what has occurred, so that they can be there for you in some manner of speaking. Again, not trying to be taxing on them, but having tribe, having circle, having those support networks that are in place, because we are a very social animal. It is just the reality of it. Some of the methods in therapy that we have worked on are EMDR, obviously meds, coping skills, boundaries. Boundaries is a huge one, actually. Those are some of the different things that I've currently worked on, and I have obviously quite a ways to go. I've only been doing my therapy for about 2 years. I know that seems like a long time, but it really, compared to the amount of time I was in that abusive relationship, it is nothing. And at first, the progress was very slow. I'm just starting to really recognize and see the value in therapy and all of that. It's taken a while. I used to basically break out crying every time I tried to talk about anything. Bringing it up would bring me multiple days of intense emotional vibrations, or reverberations, and possibly days or weeks of nightmares. I'm not in that same place anymore, and I'm very grateful for that. So yeah, building that circle up, doing what you need to do to help yourself. And for me, I am incredibly blessed because I have this amazing person next to my side who has gone through therapy. He's loved me unconditionally. in ways I didn't know I could be loved, honestly. I am very grateful for Ty. He's an amazing man who shows me every day to prioritize myself and to prioritize the healing journey that I'm on, and gives me a will to understand other people and myself in a way that I never really did. I mean, I've always been empathetic and I've always tried to help and heal people, but it's more than that. It's understanding yourself first, and every day. So thank you.